everybody, it's Miss C. Today we're going to be talking about the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo art project, school art project that we are going to be competing with. It is a contest piece for all levels of art. If you are passing your classes, you're expected to compete. We really only take about 10 or 12 per teacher to the district show, and from there the Houston officials get to choose which ones are going to advance beyond that, but it is an opportunity for you to make a lot of money. And when I say a lot, I mean like $30,000-$40,000. So when I say a lot of money, I mean a lot of money, okay? So anyway, this is going to be developing a couple of different techniques that we've already talked about in class, things like value and shading, a little bit of texture that you guys are practicing, and also grid drawing techniques to make a picture kind of like this one. Now, mind you, this one is in watercolor and in color. A lot of the time we tell you that you are limited to black and white, but that's just our school's thing. It really does have fairly open as for what materials. There are certain other specific rules that have to be followed, but we're gonna talk about how you're gonna do it in our class. So here's what you're gonna do. Who is calling me? No. So we're gonna start with a piece of rough draft paper. Rough draft paper is very thin newsprint. It's kind of tan in color sometimes, kind of gray. This is a piece of paper that is 12 inches by 9 inches on the short side. If you have a different size paper, then Mads, I can't talk right now.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, bye. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna be making a grid on your paper to match a grid from a photograph. So here's how we have our photograph set up. We have it printed about 5 by 7 inches photograph, maybe a little bit bigger, but we try not for smaller. And we have our little plastic grid like we did with our skeleton drawing project, and it gets put on top. This has also been taped out to be 9 boxes by 12 boxes. So what we're gonna do on here is we're going to make our grid 12 by 9, which means just 1 every inch. Super, super easy. So line up your ruler along the edge of your paper. Make sure that that first tick mark for 0 is on the edge. If you want to zoom in, that'd be great. So that first tick mark for 0 is on the edge. And then we're going to come around and we're going to make a mark at every single one of our little inch markers all the way around our paper. We're not going to leave any side undone. And our last one is, of course, being on the edge. Going to turn it, do it again, all the way around. And once we have these all the way around, as you might guess, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be connecting our lines all the way across. So I'm going to finish doing this. And our last side. Again, you want to do all of your sides because if you don't, there is a high probability that your ruler will end up crooked when you're trying to draw your lines. And when you're, if you end up with a crooked ruler, instead of having it be straight lines like this, matching this dot and this dot, you might have it be slightly crooked, and then you're going to end up with something that looks cattywampus. But by the time you're done, you're going to get a grid like this. I do recommend doing this in pen. Can you do it in pencil? Absolutely. Do you need to? No. And if you mess up and you're trying to erase something that you drew incorrectly, trust me, it's a lot easier to keep a mark made in pen than one made in pencil. So here's what you end up doing. Orient your paper to match your picture. This is a portrait style picture, meaning it's taller than it is wide. So we have this one oriented the same way. Or you could use my examples. I actually combined 2 photos. I used the girl and the horse from this photo, and I used the background from this photo together, but they are landscape orientation, so I turned everything to match, like so. Whichever your photograph is, that's the way you put your paper. Don't try and have a photo like this and draw it in like this. They will not match. And on these papers, I want you to come in here and look. So, in order to find out where things were, on mine, I counted from a specific point. For this particular picture, because if you notice, this is only 8 across, I had these offset by about 1 box. So the top box up here was above this box, and the bottom box over here was above this bottom box. So I counted from different corners in order to draw them. in order to draw them. And I drew in all of my outlines for each of my pictures. And what that ends up looking like once I've done that grid drawing is this. So you can see I've got all of this drawn in, all of my outlines. For all of my plants, I just kind of had the wiggly lines around the edges of the light and dark areas. I'm not trying to make it perfect because frankly, that would drive me insane. These things are entirely too far away to see perfectly. So I just drew the line generally where the edge was, and that's all I need. All right, so once you have this, you need to make it this. So how do you go from this to this? You'll notice it's not the same paper. What we end up doing is we actually tape this to a final draft paper, like so. And this one will actually be behind it. And then you need to shine a bright light from underneath using one of our light boxes or a bright window. And what you're gonna be able to see is the lines through it. Here, we're gonna go with this.